What we're going to be focusing on now in this session is what we call the preceding scenario to homosexual enactment. Basically that means a special time in the session, and I'm assuming that many of you are therapists or counselors, or if you're not, then maybe you're dealing with this issue and you can relate to this personally. But when the client comes in and says they acted out that week, you want to get them to focus on what set them up for homosexual enactment. And what you want them to do is look at the preceding scenario, the sequence of events that led them up to homosexual enactment. Now, many people think, who have been struggling with homosexuality for years, they get to that point where I want to act out, I shouldn't act out. I want to act out, I shouldn't act out. And eventually they lose out. Eventually they capitulate, even though they postpone the enactment. Okay? So the battle for the homosexual enactment happens long before they reach that point. So we do it this way. We create this situation. This is an A. That's assertion. And if you draw diagramming it, leave space because we're going to be moving in this direction. Let me describe what this is. Assertion is a self-state, and we'll be talking about self-states. Self-states are frame of mind, attitude, feelings about yourself, viewpoint. We have many self-states within us. But we're focusing on the assertion. The assertion is this. You express to the client. Have you ever had the experience of being secure and confident and feeling good about yourself and not being distracted by cell phones? You know, things like that. That's okay. But I mean really being centered and focused and feeling okay with yourself and expressing yourself naturally to people and feeling connected to others and feeling connected to yourself, being in your integrity. If you're a religious person, you're feeling good in your relationship to God. And everyone can relate to that, even however briefly those moments are. But they know what you're talking about. And when the client says, yeah, I can remember that, you say, were you feeling any homosexual temptation at that time? No. And they begin to realize that the self-state of assertion, that sense of clarity and centeredness, is when homosexuality is not at all on their mind. Even if they think about it, it's just a thought. It's easily dismissed. So now we've established the assertion. At the other extreme we have HE, homosexual enactment. Homosexual enactment is a different self-state. You're focused in acting out. You're very narrow in what you're looking for. You're disconnected from other people. You're in your own little world. You're compelled to act out, but there's no real centeredness. There's no real clarity of mind. It's just about homosexual enactment. And homosexual enactment can be different things for different clients. Some people see it as maybe connecting with another guy and having sex with someone, or just having sexual fantasies. Whatever that is for the client, he needs to know what homosexual enactment is. So now we've established two self-states. The self-state of assertion, in which there seems to be no homosexual thoughts or feelings or temptations, and the homosexual enactment moment. And you say to the client, all we have to do is figure out what gets you here and learn what those steps are, and if we can keep you here, then you never have to worry about this. And that's really the secret of reparative therapy. If we keep you in a healthy state of mind, if we keep you connected to yourself and to others, there is no place for homosexuality. There's no room for homosexuality. So now we have to understand what the variables are. And this is called shame. Shame is a generalized word that we use to kind of encapsulate that other self-state. And this self-state is someone will say something or do something that'll shut you down. there'll be a collapse. Whenever you're working with a client and they remember a traumatic moment, it's that embodied collapse. And by the way, these are embodied self states, which is to say the body is in a particular place. You're standing up, your posture is different here, you're open, you're receptive, you're expressive. Here you're shut down, you're collapsed. The body of the shame posture is a closing in on oneself. Today I did a session with a client, and he recalled a very traumatic experience of being made fun of. And when he went into that memory, he felt collapsed. In the session, he felt collapsed. So it's important for the client to know what that feels like. So shame is the opposite of assertion. And by the way, shame always happens when the person was in the assertive state. Let me explain what I mean by that. The time the person is most vulnerable, all of us are most vulnerable to shame moments, is when we're truly being ourselves. When you're open and expressive and your guard is down, that's when you're most susceptible to shame. That's why the homosexual is always in a defensive posture. He's always in a self-conscious, ill-at-ease, guarded posture, because he doesn't trust this place. This place means, watch out, you might get zapped. All traumatic shame moments were preceded by being open and honest and self-expressive. The shame moment shuts the person down. This goes back to, Alan Shore's research on the infant malattunement. He's been sensitized to malattunement, and that is the affective shutdown, the hypoaffect. Closing down. That throws him in this state, and that sets him up to this. It's called GZ, gray zone. The shame moment throws the client into the gray zone. This is what the gray zone is. The gray zone is a little different from all the other self states in that it's not truly a self state, it's more like a mood. And the mood is basically detached, zoned out, numb, disconnected, depressed, blah, hopeless, helpless. There's a generalized sense of anger and irritability and frustration, but it's not directed anywhere. And the person can stay in that place for a very long time. Some of our clients live there. As one client said to me, that's where my zip code is, the gray zone. And they know that. So my wife says, never speak in absolutes. I'm speaking absolutely here. Shame always throws a person into the gray zone. And the gray zone always sets the person up for homosexual enactment. So when you're working with a client, you say, I acted out on Tuesday night. How did you feel just before you acted out? And the answer is always the same. I don't remember. They never remember how they felt just before they decided to act out. Because why? Because they weren't present to themselves. They don't remember. They're on autopilot. They're shut down. They're dead. Which is, by the way, why many of our clients have poor memories of their childhood. They don't remember much of their childhood because they were in the gray zone. They were disconnected. And you've got to be feeling your feelings for your memories. Our memory is built on our body sensations. Our memory is in our body. Our memory is not in our brain, our memory is in our body. So if you shut down the body, you shut down the memory. Example. Let me give you an example of how our memory is in our body. If I were to ask you right now, in your shower at home, do you turn the knob left or right to bring out the hot water in the shower? You've got to do it with your hand. Have you found yourself doing that? Does anybody drive a stick? Where is reverse? You kind of have to... Oh, yours is over there. All right. But you see, the memory is in the body.